Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sandra with Ever Changing Life. And one of the things I do is the emotional freedom technique, commonly known as EFT or tapping. And the research is in. Right now, as of today, there's only a day or two left of the World Tapping Summit. And this has been going on for 10, 12, maybe even longer years. And one of the presenters, a Dr. Peta Stapleton, was talking about research. And we are creatures of skepticism. As human beings, we like being skeptical. We like to know that the information we're getting is accurate or real, especially when there is a new modality or a new a new way of doing things. And this has become even more prevalent for me during COVID because people are all up in arms about the MRI distribution system for the vaccines. Now, I'm not for or against vaccines. Quite honestly, I shouldn't even have mentioned them, but this is a great example. So today we're going to be talking about the emotional freedom technique and how there has been a ton of research done on it in the last in the last 30 years. And there have been more than 275 published peer-reviewed studies. And peer-reviewed studies are studies that they've done the study and then they are reviewed by peers. And the peers are not necessarily from tapping. They actually don't necessarily even know anything about the emotional freedom technique, EFT, or tapping. What they know about is process. And these are academic people. So these academic people study the studies and check them out for accuracy. They check out the design and the rigor of the methodology. They are looking for sample sizes. They're looking for the outcomes that come from the results and how that's discussed. And that's really valuable information from someone that isn't a colleague or not from someone that's perhaps even an advocate of the topic. 275 peer-reviewed studies have been done. Now, over 70 of the non-English speaking articles that have been actually published out in different countries, such as Iraq, Iran, and Korea. Now, all of these countries are emerging. India as well. So they're published in their native language journals. Again, all on what we traditionally see as EFT tapping. When EFT first emerged, we talked about how is this affecting the body's energy. With all of this research, now we ask, what's actually happening in the body at a biochemical level? Sorry, if you see my eyes shifting around, it's because there's stuff happening on my screen and I just don't want to miss any comments that may be being made. So some of the standout research has actually been around measuring cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone. I don't even know where the N came from. That's the stress hormone that's created when we're under stress. Cortisol races through our bodies. And it can actually be measured. So it's measured before and after tapping. Another great progress that's been being made is in DNA changes, EEG changes in the brain, blood pressure, heart rate variability. And a lot of this biological research has emerged in the last 10 years, in the last decade. And that's including brain scans. Now, Harvard University has done a 10-year study on acupuncture and stimulating acupressure points on the body. And we use acupressure points with EFT tapping. And they did MRI studies, among other things. It actually showed that if we stimulate an acupuncture point, whether that's tapping or using a traditional acupuncture needle, the amygdala, the stress center of your brain, does deactivate, and quickly. That means when your fight, flight, and freeze center, the amygdala, kicks in, tapping actually calms that center down. How exciting is that? Now, anyone who taps knows this already. And it's shown to be quite a fast process. There's also been other research all over the world. Sorry, just saw a red button blinking on my computer, and I thought my internet may not be connected, but it looks like it still is. So there's been other research all over the world. Korean researchers actually injected dye into the primary vascular system, which is basically what we traditionally call the meridian system, and it runs throughout your whole body. And they've proven that these acupuncture points actually do exist. So even any one kind of understanding a little bit about acupuncture knows the points exist, and stimulating them absolutely affects the brain. Now, this research is so integral in EFT because now that that has been established, now that we know for sure the acupuncture points exist, then applying pressure to them can stimulate your body and your brain. That's so exciting. Now, there have also been several brain scan studies, and perhaps this time next year, we'll be able to talk about the second one just completed. Now, the original MRI study in Australia was part of food craving research. Now, they were trying to help overweight or obese people decrease those cravings and ultimately lose weight long term. After a 4-week program, only 2 hours a week, and a randomly chosen tapping group and a control group that didn't tap, in the tapping group, there was significant reduction of craving. Along with the long-term research shows the cravings didn't come back even after 2 years. So now we're getting the long-term studies as well, which is so amazing. So the amygdala, being that stress center of the brain, is very primitive. It's almost like it hasn't evolved since the caveman days. And its primary function is to keep us safe. So the amygdala will send that stress signal out whenever it detects anything that could be threatening at any level. But what happens after that is it floods the body with hormones, with cortisol, with adrenaline. And then, of course, we get biological changes that might actually happen as well. This can be triggered by anything the amygdala considers a threat, like a disturbing news broadcast, or seeing a near-miss accident, or even anticipation of a meeting you may not want to attend. The amygdala is the fight, flight, and freeze center of the brain. So anytime you feel in fear at all, that center kicks in and pushes hormones throughout your body. Now, when you see that near miss or view that news broadcast over and over, the brain has the same body response that used to be reserved for, is there a tiger out in the grass outside my cave? We no longer have those tigers, but our body and our brain still react to that feeling of fear. So we're also seeing this level of stress response even in teenagers with lots of screen time, news, and social media that's actually activating the amygdala. When someone says, "Oh, I feel stressed," it's really biological. And it actually has such a profound wear and tear and inflammation in the body system. So if you are constantly in that process of fight, flight, or freeze, if you are constantly being triggered, if your amygdala is constantly being triggered, then your body is reacting to those hormones that are coursing through your body. And it actually does damage when it is being sustained for long periods of time. Now, there have also been studies to see if EFT tapping impacts our genes. Now, what they did was 1 hour of testing only for the participants and actually were able to measure gene activity through blood tests and found 72 genes changed in their expression. Some genes were turned off while others were turned on, like the immune system, meaning your immune system actually gets better through tapping because you're getting that stress response down. There's another study led by Dr. Dawson Church in the US, looking at war veterans that had post-traumatic stress disorder. They put them through a 10-week, 10-hour session of EFT tapping and were able to measure gene activity as well across those 10 hours and found 6 genes that were associated with having PTSD would downregulate, meaning they would calm down, meaning they didn't have the symptoms anymore. 6 months later, that study showed that they hadn't actually turned back on or up regulated, meaning those vets themselves said, "Nope, still feel great, don't have any symptoms of PTSD." And tapping was the only thing they did. We've got major organizations that are actually showing support for tapping. So things like the Canadian Psychological Association actually approves tapping under one of their modality sections. The National Institute of Clinical Excellence in the UK has approved tapping for government funding. All studies out of the UK recently have shown that tapping is the most cost-effective in terms of doing the financial analysis. There are organizations such as Blue Knot Foundation, which is a trauma-based association in Australia, that have listed tapping in their clinical guidelines for PTSD. Australia has also had a national disability insurance system approve tapping, meaning people can actually, through those systems, go have tapping and have it paid for at a government level. There has also been cortisol trial published in an American Psychological Association academic journal, being published with the APA is quite a big thing because they are the body that we have actually always been very evidence-based. So with more than 275 peer-reviewed studies, you have a lot of information to look at to see EFT tapping is a useful tool in many more ways than expressed here. Now, I have put EFT tapping research into Google and came up with 387,000 results. There is no longer a shortage of information. EFT tapping works. Now, for those of you who don't know me, as I said earlier, I'm Sandra with Ever Changing Life. I am an energy movement facilitator, which includes being an EFT master practitioner. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's also known as tapping. If you would like more information about EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique, all the same thing. You can contact me through my website, www.everchanginglife.ca. Check it out on the internet. There is tons of research now. Tapping works. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope to see you here next week, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week.